we do have some big primary results to bring to you this morning. This is where I start getting extremely excited. Okay, so word of caution first.
None of the official results.
Nothing is official, right? And obviously because of the pandemic, there's a lot of mail-in ballots still to come in, especially in Kentucky where we know the least. So I want to start with New York and a race that we have been covering here and following very closely. Jamaal Bowman, progressive insurgent endorsed by AOC and Bernie Sanders and others, looks very much on track to defeat longtime incumbent and chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Eliot Engel. This Saagar, in spite of the fact that the establishment pulled out all the stops for Engel. Hillary Clinton made her first primary endorsement of the season, Eliot Engel. Chuck Schumer jumped in. Andrew Cuomo jumped in. Powerful members of the Congressional Black Caucus, including Clyburn, Maxine Waters, Hakeem Jeffries, all jumped in for Eliot Engel. And again, still a lot of mail-in ballots coming in. But if you look at the results here, this is a district that is part in the Bronx and part in Westchester County. And Bowman is dominating everywhere so far. So it seems very unlikely that the mail-in balloting differential would be so overwhelmingly different. It looks very much like Jamaal Bowman has pulled off what AOC pulled off last time around. He spoke last night. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
So tonight, as we celebrate, we don't just celebrate me as an individual. We celebrate this movement, a movement designed to push back against a system that's literally killing us. It's killing black and brown bodies disproportionately, but it's killing all of us. It's killing us mentally, psychologically, and spiritually. It's forcing us to live in a country and in a world where so many people are hopeless and have lost faith, not just in the political system, but in each other. But our movement is designed to restore that faith.
I have a feeling he is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I mean, that's the real question, which is that is he going to be AOC 2018? Is he going to be AOC 2020, where you're endorsed by Pelosi and Mama Bear? So that is I mean, we really have no idea how that one is going to turn out. I'm curious to see. I know people are calling him like Squad 2.0, like an additional. I wonder if he wants that, though. I wonder instead if look, he's got a huge platform right now. He's one of the. He just knocked off Eliot Engel. He's going to be a very powerful, one of the most powerful, youngest members in the House with setting this new direction. I'm very curious to see how he handles himself once he gets to Washington. Because one of the things that I think he just recently said was, "I'm ready to go and challenge the structures of power." Now we'll see whether he means it or whether he's going to affect it. But regardless, it's really interesting. And I love watching these dinosaurs just get knocked out. You know, these people who are totally out of step with their districts. Anytime I see it, I love it. Republican,
lazy.
Democrat, lazy,
taken for granted, taking their people for granted, don't really care anymore, just going through the motions, not even in the district, rather be here in D.C., hanging out with the club here, and looking like he is getting smacked for that. By the way, one of the results we don't know is Carolyn Maloney, another longtime incumbent, another chair, one of Pelosi's chairs. That race is very close right now with her progressive challenger, Siraj Patel. So that's another one. And that kind of came out of nowhere. That wasn't big time on people's radar. There wasn't a lot of hopes that Patel could pull off that upset. He ran last time around and did well, but came up short as well. And right now, Maloney is ahead a little bit in the vote that's come in so far. There is a thought that the mail-in ballots may favor her a bit more. So I think the most likely outcome is she pulls it off, but she is very much in jeopardy right now as well. Another race that we've been watching here closely was New York's 17th congressional district. Now, this is an open seat. So whoever wins this primary, and this, again, another very Democratic area, whoever wins this primary very likely to be a member of Congress. And you have this interesting dynamic here. And if we can keep these names up on the screen here for a minute, I'll go through them. David Carlucci is a state senator, and there was a lot of fear that he could, because he has decent name ID, that he could win this seat. Why? Because he was affiliated with this IDC group, this group of basically Democratic turncoats who caucused with the Republicans to keep Democrats from having control of the state Senate. So he is a villain as far as, mainline Democrats even, and certainly the progressive left is concerned. So there's a question of who was the right person to oppose him. Adam Schleifer is an attorney, positioned himself as a progressive. He's also a self-funder. Father was a pharmaceutical billionaire. Evelyn Farkas, we covered here, was a Defense Department official who got in trouble for lying on MSNBC and the whole Russiagate thing and tried to turn that into somehow a positive. Doesn't look like the district was too impressed with that. Mondaire Jones here really surged down the stretch. And again, we want to be careful with all these because there's a lot. Even it says 96% precincts reporting. That's BS because of all the mail-in ballots that still have to come in. But right now, Mondaire Jones with a very strong lead. And this is one of those races, and I think Jamaal Bowman, and we're going to talk about Charles Booker in Kentucky here as well. A lot of these races could have gone very differently before the protests. I mean, these are all individuals who were really the right leader for the right time in the right moment and rode this surge of momentum and energy and, new awareness and sort of progressive protest movement across the country, looking like to upset victories here.
Yeah, and that was really the dynamic in Kentucky, which is with Charles Booker. So we have some of the details of Kentucky. And again, we don't have any of the official numbers there. But what we do know so far is that Charles Booker and Amy McGrath appears to be in a very tight race there. Now, as I understand it, Krystal, based on what you spoke to the Booker campaign, or they confirmed some numbers to you, is that based on the number of mail-in ballots and the votes in the city of Louisville, which is Charles Booker's own hometown, that still have yet to come in, that things are looking quite good for him. Most pundits saying that it is nearly impossible, or maybe like a 3-to-1 odds, that Booker does not win at this point.
Yeah, this is the one that we know the least about, and I want to be the most cautious with. But I did speak to the campaign this morning. There were some numbers floating around last night that, according to their own polling of Louisville, and remember there was just one polling site, so it made it a little easier to poll the voters who were coming out. In-person day of voting in Louisville went basically 80% to 16% in favor of Charles Booker. Yeah. Louisville is overwhelming population center, right? So very hard. Amy McGrath won a lot of smaller places. Very hard to make up that kind of overwhelming dominance in the city of Louisville, in Jefferson County there. None of the results, as far as I saw this morning, had come in from Louisville yet. We don't have any votes there. We also don't have votes in, again, when I checked it this morning, from Fayette County, which is Lexington, which is another population center not as large as Louisville. So the two big questions there are those two cities and then also the mail-in vote. And I think the mail-in vote in Kentucky is going to be even more of a factor and even more overwhelming than what happened in New York. They made a really concerted effort to make sure people were voting by mail. The Democratic governor there and the Republican Secretary of State worked together to make sure that that was the case. And there was a lot of fear, and we covered it here too, about in-person day of voting. There were some problems, but it was not a catastrophe by any stretch. So those are the two outstanding things. But I will tell you, and we can throw Charles Booker's tweet up on the screen, which displays some real confidence. We're on the verge of something big. From speaking to the campaign, I think they are feeling very cautiously optimistic as those results come in. And look, if he pulls off this upset, Charles Booker, youngest African-American lawmaker in the state, okay? Very populist, Green New Deal, Medicare for all. He raised a good amount of money here at the end, but Amy McGrath raised $40 million and was the hand-picked candidate of Chuck Schumer.
That's crazy.
And the DSCC. And really people thought this was a juggernaut that could not be stopped. And if it were, this one I am 100% certain, if it were not for the protest movements and the way that Charles met that moment and people really responded to his leadership and his passion and his stated values and principles, while Amy's down here saying, well, I didn't go to the protest,
but I'm not sure. Because of my kids or something.
Because of my kids, and also coronavirus, and I wasn't there, sorry. Because he met that moment, there has been a just dramatic swing in this race. But again, we don't know yet. We're going to continue to follow it. Obviously, I get really excited about these things. But $40 million overcome by basically sheer passion, grassroots energy, and enthusiasm. So potentially very exciting here. The other one we wanted to highlight for you is some on the right were trying to make a big deal out of AOC facing a primary challenge from this sort of, she ran in the Democratic primary because it's a very Democratic district. Michelle Cabrera, what's her name?
Cabrera, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, She got
former
crushed.
CNBC anchor. It was like a 4-1.
She was backed by Chamber of Commerce. She had every billionaire in the city on her donor list. Matt Stoller tweeted out that normally when candidates are like, my opponent's funded by the billionaire class, he's like, it's normally kind of BS. In this case, her donor list probably includes 10 people with private islands. So AOC easily fends off that challenge and will return to the Congress.
And then one last thing that I wanted to mention was what happened in North Carolina.
This is interesting.
This is crazy. So Madison Cawthorn defeated the Trump and Mark Meadows pick to succeed Mark Meadows. And to give you an idea of how crazy this is, Madison Cawthorn is 24 years old. He will be the minimum age to enter Congress whenever his birthday luckily lines up right around the time that he'll be able to take the oath of office. He's virtually certain to be the next congressman from that district in North Carolina. That is a crazy development, and I'm loving it. I love watching young people. This guy, I think he might actually qualify for Gen Z. He's 1995 born. So
he's a Zoomer.
First Zoomer to ever enter the United States Congress. And you know what? More power to him. I hope he challenges all the power structures. And if he ever watches this, do not take the chiefs of staff and the staffs that leadership is going to try and quash down on you. Choose your own people, educate yourself, and pursue exactly what you want.
And that gets to the point, a part of why it's exciting when you see outsiders who go directly against the Democratic or Republican establishment, where they line up behind the opponent. When they get in office, they don't owe anyone anything.
No, they don't.
They don't owe anyone any favors. In fact, they may have a little bit of incentive to stick it to their own party leadership, which is always something that you're excited to see. This dynamic was interesting too, because Meadows tried to kind of rig this thing where he didn't announce he was stepping down until right before the filing deadline, the thought being to try to clear the path for his candidate that he wanted to have some personal relationship with. And this was not a close race.
No, it was like 60-30.
Yeah,
it was
Madison
crazy.
Cawthorn crushed the Mark Meadows chosen candidate.
Nice job, Madison.
So there you go. Congratulations. And we'll continue to follow those results as more mail-in ballots come in, and we'll have more Rising for you after this.